Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Congress champion Taylor Foster. Taylor is a DIY amateur who has put in the time and effort needed to rise through the ranks. We are so excited to learn about her journey and hear what it took to make this achievement possible. Congratulations again, Taylor. What did it feel like to walk out of the arena with that neck ribbon around your horse's neck in the amateur showmanship at the Congress this year?
It was amazing. It still feels like a dream come true. When I was in there with everyone on the rail, they just kept calling everyone's name and number. And at one point, like when it got down to the final five, at some point, I was getting a little concerned that like I really wasn't supposed to be in there. And that like, I was like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing is this going to be if like I'm the only one standing on the rail and they've already crowned the Congress champion? So I was like getting a little concerned that there was like some mistake or something and I wasn't supposed to be out there. But I thought I had a good pattern and I was just so happy to be rewarded for it. And it just is so neat to see everything come full circle.
Absolutely. Was that your first like major win or to break into the top 10 even? Had you done that before?
No, never showing quarter horses. Growing up, we showed pinnos and paints. And then kind of when I was 14 to 18, we switched from paints to quarter horses. And I wanted to be, even if I was only middle of the pack in quarter horse, I wanted to be striving to be better. And I knew that I needed to go into the quarter horse industry in order to do that. And it was a dream come true to be out there.
That's so exciting. So, how long would you say you were chasing that Congress win? How long did it take you from when the moment that you set that goal to you actually achieving it?
So I have been showing in the showmanship and for quarter horse for probably about 7 or 8 years. And I've always done well at like the weekend shows, but actually last year was my first world show ever. I had never attended Youth World. Last year we came on our own and I showed the showmanship. I think I ended up sixth overall. I was tied for first in my prelims and then went in for the finals and ended up sixth overall. And we were only here, I think, a total of 3 days for that one. So we really didn't get to experience the world show at all. I grew up in Ohio and then moved to Indiana. So I was very familiar with the Congress and had attended that, whether I was just watching or went to show, and finally got competitive enough that I was winning quite a bit at the weekend shows and knew that I had a pretty good shot if I could, all the stars aligned and I had a good pattern, I had a real shot. And so last year and this year are the 2 years that we really kind of went for it.
How long have you had the mare that you show in the showmanship?
I have had her, so she's 8 now. We bought her when she was 5, so I've had her about 3 years. We bought her sight unseen from Canada in the middle of COVID. We couldn't get across the Canadian border to go see her, so we ended up buying her sight unseen. She's by Machine Made, and my pleasure horse at the time was by Machine Made, and we loved his mind and just his characteristics. So we bought her, got her home, and I actually made her my all around horse for the first year. My pleasure horse wasn't really ready to go in the all around stuff yet. And so I was just kind of tinkering around with her and ended up showing her in the all around and finished her amateur championship. And then once my gelding got going in the all around, she just became the showmanship horse. My other horse is very mouthy on the ground. He's like a golden retriever puppy and always wants something in his mouth, which is not ideal for showmanship. So with
No,
showmanship
not at
being
all.
with showmanship being one of my favorite classes, it was nice that I was still able to show that with the mare.
And did you teach her the showmanship yourself or did she come with a start on her?
No, she didn't know anything. She is very much a pleaser, so she always wants to get it right, and she was a very quick learner. So, I mean, as soon as she figured out what I want, then she was just like, "Okay, I'll do it." And ever since then, she's just tried as hard as she can to get it right.
How did you know where to begin with her in starting her on that showmanship journey? And did you get help from anyone in particular along the way?
So We've always kind of been on our own. My mom showed quarter horses several years ago. She has been a huge help in just, being my eyes on the ground and telling me what needs fixed or what it looks like or videoing it so I can go back and watch it. But we have pretty much always been do it yourselfers. Every now and then we might call in somewhere to get a lesson, or we've had a horse with a couple trainers just for a tune up. But she was 100%. She's never been with a trainer since I've had her, not full time. I've gotten a couple lessons from Dan and Darlene Trine once she got finished, just to kind of take me, one notch up. Darlene Trine is such an amazing coach. She's positive and encouraging, and she just is such a kind, good heart person. And it's just been amazing to be able to stall with them at the large shows and to get some coaching from them.
I love that you say that your mom's a big part of this because I know that I rely on my mom a lot, especially in the showmanship. There's just something I feel like about that relationship dynamic where I think since showmanship's such a personal class that your mom can really bring that out in you. So when you're running with your horse and working with your horse, I feel like they kind of know those little nuances about you and know how to help you turn it on and just see all those little details. So that's so special that you get to share it with her. Is she at the world show
Yes.
and come to the congress with you? Does she go to the shows?
Yes, she is currently my truck driver. I am not super
Aw.
great with the truck and trailer. So she is currently my truck driver. She is my biggest supporter, but also my biggest critic. So if I come out of a pattern, I'm already picking it apart myself in my head, like, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that. And I'll come out and think I had a really good pattern. And she'll be like, were you straight? Like, are you sure you were really straight with the judge? Or, you really need to put your shoulders back and, you could have done this better. And, between her and I, we just like pick it apart. And so it's so funny because she's the loudest one cheering, but then I come out of the pen and she's the first one to tell me what I can do better.
That's cool.
It's always good to have somebody to it's cool that you have the same person because I feel like in horse showing, you need somebody to kinda, like, help build you up, but then also humble you at the same time, and it's kinda cool when you can find somebody really close to you, like a family member that can play both of those roles, especially since you're more DIY. So, what challenges would you say that you faced the most being mostly DIY?
I would say my biggest challenge is probably not knowing in the moment what it looks like. Like I board my horses at a barn. I don't keep them at home. Where I board is it's a small reining facility. And when I go to the barn after work, I'm usually the only one there. So it's nice because I get to ride by myself and have kind of the arena to myself as I practice. But it's also kind of difficult because in the moment, I don't know what it looks like unless I can be like, hey, can you hey, mom, can you come to the barn and video me so I can see what it looks like? So it's hard in real time to know what it looks like from a different perspective. Cause sometimes you might think you're dead on with the judge, but if the judge is sitting off to the side, maybe your setup is a +2 instead of a +3. And then you very quickly realize when you're at the Congress or the World Show, that can mean the difference between placing first or sixth. So it's those small details that as a DIY, it's really, really hard to get those fine tuned.
Can you walk us through how you would prepare and kind of dial in some of those details for a major show since you do have to consider being a DIY and not having those eyes on you?
Yeah, so I usually thankfully the patterns come out usually a couple weeks ahead of time. My mare is super, super smart. So I can only run through the full pattern a couple times. Otherwise, she knows it and then she anticipates a little bit. So I usually will get the pattern and I'll start running through the pieces of it. So I might do this piece tonight and then tomorrow night I might work on a different piece. And then the next night, maybe I'll only work on setups. And then after I get the pieces down, then I will have someone come out and video me running through the entire pattern. And I usually will run through it 3 to 4 times just so I can get a couple different versions of it. And then before a big show like the Congress or NSBA World or the AQHA World, I usually will send that to Darlene Trine. And then her and I will have a phone conversation of this looks good, but maybe try doing this. Or she might say it's really hard to tell in the video, but you may try doing this instead. So I will send it to her to get some feedback. And then I'll take that feedback and I'll work on it again run it through a couple more times, maybe have my mom come video again, or I'll just go to the show and have her fine tune me again there before I show.
I love how dedicated you are to being, like, the best that you possibly can. So, what do you think set you apart this year at the Congress from everybody else in your class? Was it your dedication to, like, preparing for the show? Was it your actual execution at the show? Was it the relationship that you have built with your mayor? Like, what do you think led to you winning this year?
I don't know. I do have a really, really close bond with this mayor, and I've gotten to the point where I know her pretty well and I can tell if she's fresh or if she just, needs to go for a walk. Maybe she doesn't have a lot of energy, but maybe she's just a little busy minded and needs to go for a walk. And I think I did a really good job this year of getting her in the Celeste arena and preparing her and knowing exactly how much energy she had, to know that she wasn't going to be so fresh that she was going to be scared of the people walking in the stands, but she wasn't going to be so dull that I felt like I was dragging her.
Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t-shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats, we have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends.
It's actually kind of funny because before my prelims pattern, I was out in the makeup area working on my backup, and I thought that my tail looked a little long. And I'm like, it's really no lower than what I normally put it in. I'm sure it'll be fine. And so I go in my prelims pattern, and the first maneuver of the pattern was a backup. And so I went right into my backup, and I could see the bottom of her tail slowly dragging across the top of the dirt. And so that was
Oh,
like, I
no.
know that was like the only thing I could think about for the rest of my pattern. Like, is my tail still in? Like, is this going to be why I don't make it back? And so I made it through the pattern, and, I was out of breath by the end of the pattern. I got out of the arena and I saw my mom, and I was like, if I make it back, the first thing I'm doing is going back to the stalls and putting her tail up 3 inches, because this is not going to be the reason why I don't make it back. And so I heard my number called back. So I ran back to the stalls, let her go to the bathroom, and I literally took her tail out, put it up 3 inches, cut her real tail off. And I'm just so thankful that I did that, because when I went to do my second backup in my finals pattern, like, I pushed her hard, like I walked at her really hard. And I think if I would have left it, she would have ripped it out. So that was just kind of some drama that happened before my finals pattern. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is the reason why I don't make it back. This is not going to be good.
Yeah, thank goodness you noticed that, and thank goodness you kept showing through it regardless of whether you had a tail or not, so you could make it to the finals. But did you have a different plan going into the prelims run versus the finals run at the Congress?
My prelims pattern, I just wanted it to be correct. Like, I wanted it to be fancy, but at first I wanted it to be correct, because one thing that I forget who told me this, it might have been Darlene Trine, but one of the things that she said is you can't plus a maneuver unless it's first correct. And so I wanted my pattern of my prelims to be correct and memorable. And when I looked at my scores from my prelims pattern and compared them to my scores of my finals pattern, and I think that's what the judges thought also. Like, there was nothing wrong with it, but it was correct, but it just wasn't like, wow. And so when I went back into my finals pattern, I'm like, okay, like, I made it to the finals. Like, I have to go for it. If I don't go for it, I'm just going to end up right back where I was in the prelims, which was kind of middle of the pack. And so when I went in to do my finals patterns, I went for it. And sometimes I feel like with the setups, it's kind of all about luck. But I mean, I do practice those quite a bit, but you just never know how your horse is going to stop. Are they going to get their feet clear under them and then stop really parked under themselves? Or are they going to stop with their hind feet really wide? And when you say whoa, are they really going to whoa, or are they going to keep moving their feet? So you just never really know with the setups. But thankfully, she trotted up to the judge and stopped, and we moved 2 feet and she was perfectly square. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, because it was really hard, that maneuver, going into the extended trot to the stop right in front of the judge, because a lot of the horses were wanting to swing their butt because you don't want to trickle down to your stop, but you also don't want to go so fast that your horse stops really funky going right into a setup. So that was actually a kind of tricky maneuver, but we got it.
Yeah, you more than got it. It looked great. As you were building each element, could you feel that you were kind of like, okay, that's probably a plus two, plus three, or do you not really think about how good each one is until after your run?
Sometimes I will think about it like she's a really good backer. So I knew if I could start out with a big, strong back, I could get the judges' attention so that they were like, okay, like this will be good. I didn't want to lose their focus going right into the first maneuver of the pattern. So I really tried to plus three my backup. I am a former Congress queen, and what I did for almost 2 years was study the AQHA rulebook. And you had to know what a plus one maneuver was or what a plus three maneuver was. So sometimes my brain thinks almost more like an AQHA judge because you think like when you're watching a pattern, you're like, that's a plus three, that's a plus two, or, that's a minus three penalty. And so sometimes my brain does work like that, but I'm also blonde. So I have to make sure I have to remember my patterns. So that's number one is remembering my patterns.
That is a big part of it.
Yes. So usually I don't think about that too much when I'm watching my pattern, but immediately when I come out from doing a pattern, I will watch my video and that's when I start picking it apart. Like, okay, that's a plus two, or that could have been a plus three. That's usually when I start picking it apart is when I watch my video back.
So, what are you thinking in, like, the moments before you go, like, into the pen or, like, when you walk up to the start cone or even during your pattern at all? What are you thinking about?
Keeping her attention. I can't walk up to the first cone too quick or she'll get a little dull on my like either walk off or trot off, or in this case, it was a backup. She also is very interested in the photographer and not spooky, but just likes looking at them. And sometimes I will lose her attention if the photographer is really close. And in this case, the photographer is kind of off to the right of the pattern. And so I was just really trying to keep her focused there. But once we got going in the pattern, she was really good. I noticed when I was watching my video back, and I didn't notice this when I was doing my pattern live, but in my inspection, she kept trying to look over at the photographer. And thankfully, she stayed paying attention. But she's just a little busy minded like that, where, as long as I'm moving and keeping her attention, she's usually good. But if I'm standing there a while, then she just kind of turns into a tourist and starts like looking around and taking in the sights and then doesn't listen as well.
I love how much you know your mare. Like, listening to you talk, like, you can tell that you spend a lot of time with her, and like Lauren was talking about earlier, showmanship is such a personable class that I think having that really strong relationship with your horse is really important for the showmanship, and I would imagine that that had a really big role in why you won this year. So that's really cool that you've built that relationship with her.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can definitely see that in all the maneuvers that you do. There's just a good respect and rapport that the two of you have for each other, and it's just really, really fun to watch.
Thank you. She makes it fun.
One thing that I really like watching when you show is you have a very like you talked about with Darlene telling you that you have to be correct first and then have the level of difficulty. But one thing that I really enjoy about watching you is it looks very natural and effortless. It doesn't look like you're running full speed too fast and out of control. It's very beautiful and just easy to watch. How do you think you developed that sort of style?
Probably, I feel like it comes back to having my mom be the eyes on the ground. And sometimes I feel like moms or coaches or whoever it is that's helping you, sometimes they're just brutally honest. And, if I were to have one of those runs that was kind of like fake or artificial looking, like she'd for sure make fun of me. Like there's no doubt that she would give me a hard time about that. And I think it just kind of comes down to that and me watching my videos, and I think it just comes down to style, and everyone has a different style. And I think everyone just does it a little bit differently. And I think it just kind of comes down to that.
Yeah, it's super beautiful to watch, and I think that that's fun, and that's probably also what helps to set you apart when you go in that class. Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pen anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and am here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
How did you prepare for Congress this year? What did you do at home?
I did a lot of horse showing actually. We weren't home a lot this summer. So last year, I didn't realize that I was close to leading the nation in the showmanship until about when we were leaving NSBA World. So it was already August and I was, I think, 150 points behind. And we decided to go for it at the end of the year. And so we ran around crazy to all different states at the end of the year. And I ended up winning the year end, but it was so stressful doing that at the end of the year, and there just wasn't a ton of shows to go to. And so this year, we were smarter about it and we're a little proactive. And I had a pretty good start at the beginning of the year. So I kind of watched the points and we went to a couple shows earlier in the year that we wouldn't normally go to. We went to, I think it was called the American Royal in Kansas City, Missouri, I think is where it was. And we had never been to that one before, but that was a really fun show. And we just went to several horse shows, really. I mean, it seemed like every weekend we were gone at one. And so we went to more horse shows at the beginning of the year this year. And then we won't really go to any after the World Show this year. So, I mean, we just went to a lot of shows. And I think, honestly, that helped more than anything because every weekend I was asking her to step up and do her job and focus. And I think that also helped me to know what I needed to do to prepare her because we had shown her all year long. And every horse show, I either had to decide I need to take her out and lunge her or no, she's already dull. She doesn't need any more exercise. So I think just horse showing is what helped with that.
How did you avoid burning you and your mare out showing that much? Because I think a lot of people try to do that and then they peak too early in the season.
Uh
And
huh.
then by the time they get to the fall majors, they're just burnt out mentally, physically, both them and their horse. So, how did you avoid that?
For me, I don't know if it's possible for me to get burnout from horse showing. It's my favorite thing to do. Like I don't know what else I would do as a hobby if I didn't horse show. Maybe I'd be a boater. I don't know. Like I honestly have no idea what I would do. So for me, I just feel like it was easy. It was just I enjoy it and it's something that I wanted to do and so I don't think that I really felt burnt out, but with the mare, with her only showing one class and usually she would only show once, maybe twice if it was like a split combined show bill. But I think with only showing the showmanship, I ride her at home just to keep her in shape. But it shows I usually will just take her out and lunge her or just take her for a walk, depending on how much energy she has. And so I think she enjoys it also. She doesn't get asked to do a whole lot. She does her job and then she gets to go back in her stall and have a hay bag full of hay. So I think she just stayed happy and content also, which I think helped with her attitude and just kept her happy and enjoying her job.
That's so cool. I could see being a showmanship horse would definitely be the dream job, I think, if I was a horse.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to be when I grow up is a showmanship horse.
Showmanship horse.
Yeah, 'cause they get to be just pretty and taken care of, and it's okay if they're a little bit fat, like, it's great.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Her underline isn't too great. When she's moving and trotting, she lifts her back up so she looks a little better, but sometimes I'll look at my pictures from the horse shows when I'm, like, in the inspection, and I'm like, "Yeah, she definitely has a little belly on her."
That's okay. So, speaking of that, is there anything that either you or her do to keep physically fit in between the horse shows?
I would say for me, it's just going to the barn every day. With having 2 horses, like, easy, I have a 3 to 4 hour barn night every night if I work both horses, and I usually try and do that. For her, she does get exercise every day, whether it's lunging or riding her. I do lunge her. She has a pretty chunky neck. She is a very easy keeper. Like, she would get fat just looking at hay across from her stall. So, managing that is something that was a really big struggle this year, honestly, was just keeping her in shape. So I lunge her with her neck sweat on quite a bit, which she does not like. she does not like her neck sweat at all. But I can't blame her.
I wouldn't either. I would not wanna be running around bundled
No.
up either.
No, and she does not like to sweat. She is very much a princess, and it's funny because even here at the World Show, or if we go to a horse show in January in Indiana, it's usually cold, and there's an all indoor facility that we go to quite a bit. But if there's not one fly, like I still fly spray her every time before I show the showmanship, because I don't know if it's in my head or hers, but if she thinks there's any flies, like it's a problem. So I will fly spray her every time before I show the showmanship, whether there's flies or not, just so she thinks that there's no flies and it's all going to be good.
That's awesome. She sounds like a little showmanship princess,
Oh,
which I think
yes.
all the best showmanship horses that I've ever worked with have always been little princesses, so that makes sense to me.
Yes.
So I know that you said that you love horse showing so much, so that helped so that you didn't get burnt out at all. What is it about showing horses that you love so much?
I think it's just being around animals, and there's just such nice, good people in the industry. And it's just really fun to come and see friends and support them and watch them and go out. And one of my favorite things to do is to just go get on one of my horses and just stand out in a makeup area. It's just amazing how much you can learn from, hearing someone else's feedback or watching someone to see what they're doing to get their horse through a certain point. And that's honestly one of my favorite things about showing horses is just going out and watching others and seeing what is helping them and making them successful.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially as a DIY amateur. I bet that that's where you learn a lot of your techniques and ideas for how to work through problems at home is just sitting and watching at the shows.
Yes, definitely a lot of trial and error because like every horse is just so different. So even if something is working for one, it might not work for the other. And my two horses are a perfect example of that. Like my gelding is like unflappable. Like he is so lazy, and like when I take him out to lunge, the first thing he wants to do is roll. Like he has no desire to go fast whatsoever. He just his favorite speed is to walk, and she's the exact opposite. Like if when I ask her to go, she's like, "Okay, I'm going to do it right now." And they're so opposite. And so when am riding them, they have different bits. I wear different spurs, and they're just so different that if I do something with him, there's no way that I could do it with her because she'd be like, "What the heck are you doing? Like, why are you doing this?" And so it's just so funny how different they all are and how different they all have to be ridden.
Do you find it easy to transition between riding the 2 or even working with the 2 of them because they're so different, or is that easy for you to do?
I would say it's pretty easy just because I'm the only one right now that rides them. If they had another rider, like if I did have them with a trainer full time, I think it would be more difficult just because I feel like we wouldn't be as connected. You know, Someone else's legs might hit different because their stirrups are either longer or shorter, or they might choose to use a different bit than I would. And so I think there's just some changes there. But because right now I'm currently the only one riding them, I think it's fairly easy.
Hi, everyone. It's your personal trainer, Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopindowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
What I'm hearing you say there too is that you're just a true horseman, and I think that that's really special. And to be able to understand your horses and adapt to them versus try to fit them into a cookie cutter mold and say that they both have to be the same. Like that says a lot about you and the amount of patience and just knowledge that you've had to acquire throughout the years to be able to do this with them. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I think we forget that they are still animals and they're not like machines. And so one thing might work today and then you go and try it again next week and it doesn't work. And then you have to come up with something else. And I think that's kind of the frustrating part of it is, just because it works today doesn't mean it might work next week, depending on what mood they're in or, what mood you're in. And so it's all just a bunch of trial and error.
Yeah, for sure. Was there ever a time when working with your mare where you thought, "Oh, man, she's not gonna make it as a showmanship horse," or, "Oh, she's not gonna make it to the level that I want?" Or did you always kinda have a feeling in the back of your mind, like, she could be the one?
So when I first saw the picture of her online, because we used to show pinnos and paints, I was immediately attracted to all of her like white socks and her blaze. Like I loved that about her. I loved that she had that presence of like wow, she's beautiful. And so I really liked that idea as like a showmanship horse just because with showmanship it's a lot on the presentation and the overall look of it. But I feel like every time I've started a horse on showmanship, you're always just a little discouraged right at the beginning because you're so
Yeah.
used to having like a broke one that you just turn and walk at and they get away from you. And then when you're starting over, you turn and walk at them and they just stand there and they just, they just don't know. And you kind of forget that you have to start over and show them what you want. And so that is always just a little discouraging when you first start out. She was a pretty quick learner. So that was a little reassuring, but it was always just a little frustrating at the beginning because, you go to ask them to set up and they either try too hard and want to move all of their feet or, they're just being a little lazy and, they don't want to move any of their feet. So at the beginning, it's always a little discouraging.
Yeah, definitely. I've gone through that because for some reason I really enjoy getting the young ones and starting them. And it is a process every single time. And every single time for probably a good 30 days, I wonder to myself, why do you keep doing this? And then they figure it out and you're like,
Yes.
oh, this is why. It's so exciting.
Yes, it's brilliant when like it finally clicks and comes together. You're like, oh, what a relief because this wasn't going well for a while.
We have this one horse in the barn named Cheeseburger, and his personality fits him to a T. And when he first came, so he's my trainer's horse. And so she kinda let me, play with him and teach him the showmanship, which was a really cool experience for me to go through, but he was such a funny horse because he was so dull, and he's just such a donkey. He's just really hard to lead. Like, he'll just, like, stop and plant his feet and just be like, I'm not moving." You know what I mean? And so I was like, "Oh, like, how are you ever gonna be a good showmanship horse?" And he's actually, like, a really good showmanship horse. He pays attention to you, he doesn't wanna do the wrong thing, he wants to obey you, like, like, surprises me because when the chain's not on, he's literally such a donkey. But when that chain is on, he knows his job and he knows what to do, and it always surprises people.
Yeah, showmanship is funny that way. You can take some that are mouthy or dull, and then you give them like kind of a job and a purpose, and a lot of them
Mhm.
will
Yeah.
take to it. But then you do have some that are still mouthy and dull and don't want to do it at all, and then it's just better not to continue pursuing that for both your sanity and theirs.
See, and I keep holding out hope that my gelding, the one that I'm showing in the rest of the classes, will eventually, like, when he's older, like 10, 11, 12, I'm hoping he eventually gets over the mouthiness. So I'm kind of holding out some hope for that, but it's not looking good so far.
So here's a hopeful story for you. So if you remember that extremely good stuff horse that I had, when I first started.
Rooster.
Yes, Rooster. I miss him, but he was the worst showmanship horse possible. He would stand at the start cone and literally he was that overtrier and he would prance. You would trot up, you would stop, and then he would just his feet never stopped moving. It was so bad that I got to a point where I said, "This horse will never do showmanship. I'm just done." I didn't do showmanship with him for a good year, year and a half. And then I just kept working on him like at home. Every now and then I'd pull it out and be like, "Is it any better? No. Okay, we'll try again. Is it any better? No, we'll try again." And then one day he just like settled and it clicked. And I think it's because I just let it take the time it needs to take. And he
Mhm.
was one of my favorite showmanship horses of all time because he was so light and responsive and just tried really hard. But if I would have tried to force it, we would have never gotten there. So there's still hope. Just be patient.
You won a title with Rooster, didn't you? I can't
Yeah, he
remember.
ended up being reserve world champion at the AQHA World Show in the showmanship.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so
So
awesome.
Yeah, so that was really
yes.
cool. And if you would've known it on the very first time I showed him, you woulda laughed and said, "No way that's ever going to make it."
Yeah, you just gotta never give up and keep trying. So maybe if you keep trying, your gelding will surprise you one day.
We'll see. To even get him through a halter class, so I usually have to give him, like, those, like, peppermint puffs that come in, like, the huge bin?
Yes.
So I usually give him like 5 of those right before I walk up and, like, track through the judges, and that keeps him from biting at me or the lead shank. And then I get him around and I have to give him another 5 to get him set up. And then once he's set up,
Oh my
I
god.
just keep popping peppermints. I mean, I my pockets are usually like I feel like a chipmunk. Sometimes my pockets are sticking so far out, like it's insane.
He
Maybe he
has you
need
trained so well.
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
he needs, like, that clicker training or treat training where he's then waiting for the treat or something. I know nothing about that, but maybe maybe look
I really appreciate that you're, like, encouraging the treat giving though, because so many people are like, "Maybe if you stopped giving him treats, he'd stop biting." And I'm like, "It wouldn't work. Like, that feeding treats is not making this worse. Like, it's just
keep
him."
him
Oh.
occupied.
Yeah, exactly.
Can
Choose
horses
my
have peanut
battles.
butter? Maybe he needs peanut butter.
Someone actually suggested that, and another person, I guess they make horse chewing gum. So I bought some of that, but I haven't tried it yet. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I have
Interesting.
not heard of that.
I don't know how they know, like, not to swallow it or,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I did buy it, so we're gonna try it out.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Report back, I'm
Huh.
curious.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I wonder, like, you know how, like, so we have a horse in the barn who's a stud, and so they always put, like, the Vicks vapor rub on his
Mhm.
nose so he can't, like, smell the other mares while we're riding around.
Oh,
And I wonder if that would work because it smells like a peppermint? So maybe that would, like, keep him occupied enough, like, thinking, or it might totally backfire and it might make it way worse because he's like, "I can smell the peppermint, but I don't taste a peppermint." But that would be an interesting theory too. You'll have to try some things and report back to us.
I'm willing to try anything at this point. When I was first started showing him in the halter, I was like, somehow I've got to get this horse set up. And like I hadn't worked on like showmanship, like or anything like that with him. I had tried, but it just had failed miserably. So I'm like, I'm not even messing with this.
Oh.
But then, a lot of times now, if you're going for an all around, they require you to show and halter. So I'm like, oh gosh dang it. So
Mhm.
I had to teach him to set up. And I mean, it was atrocious for a while. So finally I got, those like those grazing muzzles that you can put on horses when you turn them outside.
Yes.
I
Yes.
practiced my setups in a grazing muzzle.
Good
Oh, that's
idea.
awesome. There's
Mhm.
this one lady who shows in the showmanship, and while she's practicing, she gets, like, one of those, like, figure-8 nose bands that, like, the hunter horses use, and she practices with, like, the figure-8 nose band because her horse is so mouthy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I haven't seen anyone use the grazing muzzle before, though. That's a new one.
I don't know that I would be, I don't know that I'd bring that to a show and use it just because I'm sure I'd get some looks for sure, but at home it's
Probably. But at
definitely been
home,
used. Yeah.
it works, it
Yeah.
works. Yeah, you gotta be creative.
And you could still slip a peppermint in through there if you need to.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
could. That's a good
exactly.
point.
Some backup. I'm open to any and all options at this point with him.
I love it.
So, what is it about the showmanship specifically that you love showing it so much? Like, you have a mare that you take specifically to the horse shows just to do the showmanship with her. Like, why the showmanship for you?
To me, I just like the showmanship because I think it's one of those classes that you don't have to have the most expensive horse out there. You don't have to have the best mover
Yes.
out there. And I really appreciate that about that class. I think that is a class that anyone can do, no matter what horse you have the fundamentals and proper attire. Like, I truly think that anyone can do that class. And that's something that I really like about it.
Yeah, that's what I love about the showmanship as well. Can't remember what horse trainer I heard say it, but I heard someone say that any horse can be a good showmanship horse as long as you never give up on it. And I think that that is really true. I totally agree that I love that piece about it, that you don't have to have the nicest outfit and the nicest horse at the horse show to go and do well. Like, showmanship is about, like, how much time and dedication that you've put into the class. Like, it really shows up if you've been practicing and developing that relationship with your horse or not.
Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.